We all gotta get off.
What are you talking about?
The bridge is gonna collapse.
What?
We're all gonna die.
What the hell is going on?
We're all gonna die if we don't get off this bridge now!
What's going on?
Stan, relax. It's just some construction.
Molly, please. Please, God, follow me. Open the door!
This is a major liability issue. If something happens to them, it's on us. You get that?
Yeah.
Then go get that.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Hiding for Horrors podcast, where we review horror movies and horror franchises. I'm Mark.
I'm Tawan.
And today we're reviewing Final Destination 5, released in 2011, directed by Stephen Quayle, and written by Eric Brass. Tawan, can you give the people the plot summary?
During a bus ride with his colleagues to a corporate retreat, Sam experiences a horrifying vision. The suspension bridge that they and many others are on read that part over. The suspension bridge that they and many others are crossing starts to crumble around them. When his vision ends and almost immediately starts to come true, Sam takes quick action that saves a number of people, including his girlfriend Molly and his friend Peter. However, the survivors soon find that death will not be denied.
So Final Destination 5 is, I believe, a course correction from the Final Destination, because the Final Destination was so bad and the CGI was so bad, and that movie just felt wrong. But this one is different. This one is good. It's suspenseful, and then the CGI and the 3D effects actually, they make more sense with or without the use of 3D. And I feel like with this movie, the people behind the scenes saw what worked or what didn't work with the Final Destination, and they were able to bring it together for this one. But what about you, Tawan? What do you think? What are your thoughts on Final Destination 5?
Yeah, I definitely agree that this one brings the series back, and it's kind of like, I'm glad it didn't end with 4 or like stop it if 4 was like our stopping point at where we are now, at least. Because when I watched this movie for the first time, I don't even think I went to see this one in theaters, because I remember not liking 4, and I was like, it's probably gonna be like, it might be the same in quality as like 4, so I'm not like in a rush to see it. So, color me surprised when I eventually watched it, like probably either when it like came to digital or something, and I eventually watched it and I was like, damn, this was actually pretty good for a Final Destination movie. And then like the whole ending as well, I was not expecting like none of what happened like towards the end of this movie, and the way they like connected it all together was like, that was really dope to see, and I liked how they went about that. So I thought that whole factor of it was cool. Like, yes, I would say the character still kind of felt like caricatures, but when you work in corporate, you find so many people like that anyway. So some people are literally caricatures of stuff that you see. So I mean, I didn't find that to be like the most unbelievable thing. So the characters like weren't bad, and I've seen the main actor in this movie and some other stuff before. He's not like the worst or anything. I didn't think he was one of the best protagonists either. I kind of didn't feel much of anything towards him. He was just, our main character. Outside of that, yeah, I think just in general, I like Final Destination 5. I thought it was a good like return to form for the series, and was just glad that we weren't stuck with the Final Destination as our like latest entry until this one came out.
Yeah, and like you said, there were definitely some characters that, I don't know, they just felt like they were made to fit a mold, but it just felt like everything was more fleshed out than the characters from the last movie. Because the last movie, only one character really felt fleshed out, but I feel like the final four, at the very least, I felt like I knew them. I felt like I knew their motivations. I felt like I knew what they wanted and why they were trying so hard to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just felt like there was more to understand with them. Like the character turn didn't feel so dramatic and so drastic because they kind of like gave you bits and pieces. Like, okay, this is who that character is. So I kind of get it now. And I say the final four, but really, only like three of those characters really had like a big pivotal point in the movie. But
Mm.
we'll get there. But what were your thoughts on the premonition and the premonition scene?
I thought the premonition scene in this one was really good, and it kind of brings back what I was mentioning in four about something that people have an actual fear of, and kind of using that towards the premonition. Because like I mentioned in four, like I don't think anybody has like an innate fear of going to a NASCAR race and the cars like possibly getting launched into the audience. But so many people so many people drive and have fear of like those bridges that stretch over for like really long like really long areas. And some people, like, I think there's I forget which bridge it is. It's either like in Texas or like Alabama, something like that. It's this bridge is like super long. If I recall reading, I don't know if they actually do this, but I do remember reading it. They said that they have people at the bridge who would drive it for people, and then they'll get off on the other end because it's so long that people don't. Some people literally will not drive across it, but some people just have that innate fear of like bridges and driving across water, stuff like that. So it's not like an irrational. It's not like an irrational thing for to kind of see and use in like a Final Destination movie. And there's just so much that can kind of go wrong, as we saw with this opening, especially with the construction going on as well. So I think the way that it was handled was really interesting. And the this one was, I think this was the best premonition since the third one. Well, we only got four in between, so it's not much there, but it still is. The all the kills of the premonition were pretty interesting. Um, we had like some good shocks in there, and I think it kind of brought us back a bit after what we just previously had. And I know, like, I feel like I'm probably saying that a lot, like broken record style, but if you watch the fourth movie, you would know that it just was kind of a letdown. So coming back to the series and seeing what we got now with five, it was a nice return to form, and I was just glad to um, see what we got here. And I think, yeah, and I really think that the premonition scene in this one definitely bangs. It was really good. Like all, it was some crazy. It was some crazy incidents that happened in this one.
Yeah, for me, the setup of the premonition and like every little detail and watching the main character like run and trying to save people and even how he died at the end, it pretty much like again like I've been on planes, I've been on roller coasters, I've been on the highway, I've crossed bridges. So all of that, like that, those fears was something that I could connect to. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but with four, it's like I've never been to a fucking NASCAR race, and I don't know if I ever will be at a NASCAR race. I couldn't connect, and I think what you need to do with these premonition kills is it has to be able to be something that connects, something that people will be like, okay, I can see myself in a situation. This is completely realistic and this is accurate. I would very much be afraid of this, and this gave it to me, and I don't know. I felt, I don't know. This it's just this premonition was really good, and it showed me what number four was lacking.
Mhm.
Like four didn't give me that fear, and didn't give me that connection to the plot, and I felt like they did a great job of introducing the main characters we were going to focus on
Yeah.
before the premonition. I felt like I had a good grasp on those characters before we really start to like see them fight for it, for their
I don't
survival and
know.
shit.
It felt more natural. Like I don't like four. They like that friend group didn't feel like a friend group. The randoms that came like with them at the time, like I don't know, nothing felt cohesive. Whereas you work corporate, Mark, and I work corporate, so like you always have to deal with people that you may not even fuck with, or like just like so many different type of people that work in like that type of world that it really doesn't need to make sense that these type of people would be around each other because they're just coworkers.
Yeah, yeah, and that's and it's like, and then having like the coworker who's just like, okay, like you have that one coworker who you don't like because they're so inappropriate, but like you still want them to die,
Mm-hmm.
so you still have to try to save them. You have that one coworker who's like, who's in charge and who's the boss and who's very much a company person, and they're such a dick, but you still don't want them to die. So it's like you're able to connect more,
Yeah.
and I felt like that's what the last one was severely lacking. But let's move on to some scenes. Were there any scenes that stood out to you, good, bad, or indifferent?
So some scenes slash kills that stood out in this movie for me. Um, One scene that was interesting was the friend Peter when he was kind of going through his whole frame of mind of trying to see if he was going to kill someone so that he could possibly escape his place like skipped in line. That whole thing was interesting because we don't I don't think we ever got anything like that throughout the series before where you had someone um like contemplate killing like a random person to like get their quote unquote place skipped and they can live a bit longer. And I thought that whole like frame of mind was interesting for the movie, and also just the way that it was playing out because you could see he didn't want to do it, but he also wanted to try to save himself at the same time. So it was a good little character struggle there, and I like that. Um, Another scene that I liked as well in this movie um, would have to be during the premonition, where I forget the gentleman's name, but he was like there. I think he was like the manager or the boss. Like he was an older, bald headed dude, and he fucking got the tar like over on his body, like cover his body. He like melted off the bridge. That while he was hanging on, that was crazy. I don't think I've seen a kill like that. That was actually pretty crazy. Like for these movies, so that was like an interesting kill. Uh, Another kill in this movie, obviously the gymnastics kill. That one, that was a crazy
Okay,
one.
the setup for that was
Oh
so
my god,
intense,
it
and it had
was.
me like so anxious. Kind of like it could be because I kept on thinking 'cause there's a fucking nail on the fucking beam,
Mhm.
and I just kept on thinking like, oh, is she gonna hit the nail? She's gonna slap her neck? Like, it was so intense.
It definitely has like I think it was giving me the same energy as Mrs. Luden kill from the first movie because like you're just like what the fuck is gonna kill her, like it's so much going on right now, and it was giving me like that energy. And when it actually like happened, you were just like yo, because it's so simple the way that she actually died, like just like falling, like because she couldn't catch herself, but the way that it happened was just like they did that build up of tension so good in that scene. It definitely paid off. um and last but not least for me, towards the end, we cannot forget the wraparound scene that explained how this movie was a prequel the whole time. I was not ready for that. Like I I
I
was
was
not
not ready,
ready.
and I kind of got emotional because like they
Exactly.
like they tried and they fought so hard to survive. Like, yes, they all fight hard to survive in every movie, but Molly and Sam gave it their all. And then to know that Molly didn't even die in the premonition,
Yes.
just to come back around, and when she realized, oh my God, they're on flight 180, they're going to die. I felt so sad. I was like, no, don't do
Like
this. Please don't do this.
whoever came up with wrapping that back around like that, like that is so fucking smart because it's even funnier when I think back on the movie because you know each of these movies usually take place in whatever year that they were filmed or came out, so it never even crossed my mind initially like that there wasn't any modern technology in the movie at the moment like while watching it. It never really crossed my mind. I just thought like, oh, this because it came out by 2015, I think, or around that time. So I was like, oh, this just takes place in like 2015. Like I'm not thinking much of it because it wasn't like told to us that it was taking place in like the early 2000s. So I wasn't thinking that. So when it actually happened, I was like, yo, like that was just one of those moments like that definitely lives in my head like rent free for this series. So that's definitely one of like the best like moments out of this series because we it's like it's instantly one of those if you know you know because if you watch the movies you just immediately know what the hell is about to happen. So that happening and then the guy at the end of the movie who was left, the black guy, when he was told that the gentleman he thought that he killed to skip his place was already gonna die, he get killed by the landing gear. That was just a cherry on top. I'm sorry. That's only some shit that you could get happen in the Final Destination movie.
Yeah, that wraparound was crazy. And again, like I was just like, I felt so bad for them. Especially when he was like, when he looks at her, when he looks at Molly, he's like, "Oh my God, oh no!" I was like, "Oh no!" Like, why am I feeling some kind of way watching a Final Destination movie? Like, what the fuck?
Mm.
I don't know. It kind of just took me out. And I kill that stood out for me is when the black friend. I'm so mad. I forgot his name, but his confrontation with his coworker when they were at the plant or whatever, and he dies. I it was an intense scene, and it all happened so fast.
It did.
But I knew, I was like, I knew that had to come back because that all seemed too easy. Like you're told that if you take someone's life, you get their lifespan, and then a couple of scenes later, you accidentally take someone's life. I was like, okay, that's too good to be true. That's too good to be fucking true. And um, mm, also the same scene at at the plant is when Dennis, the guy who envisioned was killed by the tar.
Uh huh.
When the wrench like launches up
Oh
and
my
like splits his head and splits his face in half.
god, that was some crazy shit.
I was like, wow, this movie is going there.
Yes, because it's like it's not even it's so simple. It's like a wrench to the face, and it's like damn, but it's like yo, like what the fuck? And it just happened right after that other kill too. I think that's why it was crazy.
And you wasn't expecting another kill like back to back to back like that. And it's like we kind of saw a similar kill with the rock to the face and Final Destination 4, but it didn't look right. Like the CGI looked bad, but here it worked so well. And then
Yeah.
that the last like scene with Peter, Molly, Sam, and the cop in the
Mm,
restaurant. When Peter like kills the cop and now he's following Molly and Sam, like that was all intense
it was.
because it was like okay, because I okay, I'll talk about it at the end, but that scene was intense, and it was like one of the first kind of scenes we've seen in a Final Destination movie, and I'm just like, wow. we're really going here with this, and it was good.
It was. They did really go with that, and yeah, well, it was kind of the first of its like type of scenario in Final Destination. We never saw like. Then we basically got a chase sequence.
We did for the first time ever. But let's move on to characters. We're gonna start with Bloodsworth. We got Bloodsworth back. You know, we didn't have him in the last movie. We didn't see him in 4, but we heard his voice over the speaker. But what do you think about this scene with Bloodsworth and this new rule that he told the survivors?
I, with it in context now that this is technically a prequel, I think Bloodworth need to consolidate the rules. Cause I feel like he just be telling these people anything. Honestly, he just be fucking with them at this point. Cause he is not giving one rule that worked. It was great seeing him though. Like obviously, just like I felt about him in any other movies, it was always great seeing like Tony Todd in these movies. But with it in context now that this is a prequel and he's giving like these rules over the years, yeah, he needs to consolidate and figure out what's actually working and what's not working. Because nothing that he has said has worked so far.
Yeah, and I'm just like, can you injure? And but would it be in the prequel and with the rules he told them? I was like, but yeah, but you didn't tell Alex and the crew,
Exactly.
or you didn't tell Clear and that second crew about this rule of taking someone's life. So now it feels like, okay, he tells people these rules, and then he realizes they don't work. So he's like, okay, fuck that rule. I'm gonna tell the next group a different rule. Like Bloodworth, pick a rule and hope that motherfucker is accurate and stop going back with different rules with every group that you see. And I know he's going to be in the next one, and I'm curious how he's going to fit in into the up
Same.
to the one coming out. So we always have that. But then, what are your thoughts on Peter? Now, for me, I kind of understood Peter's turn. Like Peter just wants to survive. You know, he don't want to die.
Yeah.
He want to live. He want to survive. And being told that if you take somebody's life, you get that span. Now, I think he was fucking crazy because he was trying to kill Molly because it wasn't fair that Molly didn't die in a premonition, and but his girlfriend died, so he has to take Molly's life. I was like, all of that was a bit of a reach, and I was like, Peter, you're fucking crazy. You know, you discount looking Tom Cruise. Calm down,
Oh
sir.
my god,
Don't be trying
I
to
was
kill Molly.
so that was taking me out the whole time because I was like, why he look like Tom Cruise?
Right? It was too much. I was like, sir, you cannot be. And then I found out that he was like,
Was he like a stunt double or something?
no,
Or a body double?
he played, he did one of those like disaster movies type things where he like parodied Tom Cruise.
Oh my god, I know a movie. I know a movie. It was. It wasn't a scary movie. It was the superhero movie.
Yes, it was that one. Yes,
Oh
yes,
my
yes, yes,
god,
yes.
that was him.
Yes. So I was like, oh my God. But like I got his turn. And then when he told them, like, okay, I killed the cop and I got his lifespan, but you guys just saw me kill the cop and I don't want to spend my newfound lifespan in prison. I also kind of felt that. And I was like, oh, like, I kind of get it. Like, I kind of, like, some of the things he was doing was like, Peter, calm the fuck down. But then other things, I was like, okay, I kind of understand where he coming from, though.
Hmm.
But what about you? What are your thoughts on Peter?
Yeah, I do kind of feel the same about him as well. Like, I definitely understand where the character is coming from. you're not trying to die, and we also you also know at this point you have multiple people that have died by this point in time. So it's definitely a big like the moral question of the whole thing is like, would you kill to save yourself? And well, we know Peter would, so I mean that's not even out of the question.
I
But
low key don't blame him.
I don't blame him either. But yeah, he after he did kill someone, he then like you mentioned, he decided, well, shit, we already did that. Might as well go further, right? And that's where he fucked up because either way, killing someone, he would have still been wrong regardless. Honestly, any of them like deciding to actually do it, it would have been like the wrong way to go about any of this. But now we we have like a whole situation now that he finally did it. He's like, oh, well, y'all saw me do it, and also my girlfriend did, so yours got to go too. So it's like, bro, it's like the frame
That
of
was
thinking.
wild. I
Yeah,
was like, come on, bro.
the frame of thinking by that point was, yeah, that was interesting. I will say,
Yeah, I know. I was conflicted on Peter, but what are your thoughts on Molly?
honestly, out of most of the secondary character to our protagonist, I think probably like Molly the most, and they also felt like a real couple. Or well, I think they were at the beginning. They were kind of exes towards the beginning, right? Or were they together?
She was getting ready to break up with him because he was moving to Paris.
There we go. Yeah. So, but they felt like a real couple compared to what we got most. And not saying like the writing was out of this world on this movie, but the writing for the characters felt a little more real, I guess you could say. And the actress that plays Molly, I've seen her in some other things, and she's pretty good. And I liked her in this movie as well. She also has to be the most luckiest and then unluckiest person because we saw her at the beginning. Um, she didn't die in the premonition, which I was about to say I think is a first, but I don't think that in the second movie, I think the pregnant lady, I don't think she died in the premonition. So it wasn't the first time that happened, but she was definitely the luckiest in this movie until she wasn't, because she had no cares. She had nothing to care about until she got on flight 180 and then got taken out. And she got taken out too worse, like so, but not worse. She didn't have to slowly burn, but getting sucked into the jet engine is still a crazy way to go out. Um, and like her acting in that scene was really good when she was back when the place started to like explode and she got sucked out. Like her acting in that scene was like very good. But I like I like the character Molly. Like she really felt like she was trying to empathize a lot with Sam and what he was going through, and I feel like she maybe was the most supportive as well out of like others that we got throughout the series who were, secondary to our lead and assisting them. I don't know, she felt more helpful to me.
Mm-hmm. I feel like she she didn't overshadow Sam, and I feel like there are a lot of instances where we get the partner character and they overshadow or they don't add anything. But I feel like Molly added just enough where she
Mhm.
was enjoyable. But that's just me. But what are your thoughts on Sam?
I I thought Sam was fine. Like I don't think he was like my favorite protagonist, but he wasn't like my least favorite either. He's kind of like just in the middle for me, and I f- I don't know if it's like how Sam's character is or how the actor is portraying him, because I've seen this actor some other stuff, but it wasn't like anything major to my immediate knowledge. So, um, I'm not sure what his acting chops are like in some other projects, but I don't know if he um, has been in other like horror and stuff like that prior to this one. So, but I think for the services of this movie, at least, I think Sam works for what we got, and using his using his character so that we could have a comeback to the whole Flight 180 situation is still just so smartly done. Because after you rewatch it and you have certain seeds planted in your mind about it, you kind of like think of it a little bit, but it never like strikes your mind until you see the ending for the first time. But yeah, out of the Final Destination protagonists that we perceive through like in the series so far, I don't think nothing's wrong with Sam's character, but I don't think he was the most memorable for me either.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I feel like we've had three male protagonists, and he's definitely number two of the three because again,
Mhm.
the one from Final Destination 4, that whole movie kind of just like fell apart.
Yeah.
And I feel like he does. I feel like Sam was. See, I feel like the reason why Sam kind of doesn't stand out completely is because with this movie, that kind of like they wanted to let us know, okay, these three people, these four particular characters are gonna matter a lot to the plot and a lot to the final act. So I felt like Peter and Molly and Sam and the black friend who I keep Nathan and the detective, they were all like given story. They were all fleshed out because they were all going to be important when it came to that big final set piece.
Hmm.
So I feel like because they spent a lot of time fleshing everyone else out, Sam didn't get a chance to stand out to us. Because with one, two, and three, those characters were fleshed out because they really didn't focus on the side characters at all. Because when you go back to three, like, yeah, you knew the main character had a sister, but you only saw the sister in a couple passing scenes here and there before you realized, oh shit, the bitch was on the roller coaster and she's part of Death's design. But she wasn't someone that we focused on until we had to
Hmm.
focus on her. But I feel like on this movie, they focus on those final four or five characters because and that also made the ending more impactful because it's like, oh, we've spent time with Sam, we spent time with Molly, we spent time with Peter, so we kind of understand where Peter's coming from. And
Yeah.
oh shit, now Nathan's gonna die. So I feel like it's not that the actor was bad or that the writing was bad. It's just like for the first time they decided to flesh out everyone, not just the main premonition person.
Big agree.
But as we come to the end, Tawan, can you give the people the behind the scenes info?
So the budget for Final Destination 5 was 40 million and it brought in a box office of 157.9 million. Some critics' reactions: the film currently sits at a 63% on Rotten Tomatoes. The New York Post called the bridge collapse sequence spectacular. Bloody Disgusting gave five reasons as to why Bloody Disgusting gave five reasons as to why Final Destination 5 is the franchise's best sequel, highlighting the opening sequence, the inventive death scenes, the level of gore in the film, the new mythology to defeat death, and the ending encompassing scenes with the first film. The Hollywood Reporter praised the film's opening sequence is undeniably spectacular, and Roger Ebert said, the special effects do an excellent job of beheading, incinerating, vivisecting, squishing, and so on. Final Destination 5 contains some of the most fun effects ever seen that purely enhance the thrills and bloody spills.
Well, enough about them. What about us, Tawan? Do you cash or pass Final Destination 5?
I definitely cash Final Destination 5. I've come back to this one a couple times since its initial release. And the not saying the ending still gets me, but each time I get to the ending, I'm like, damn, that is so smart. Like how they wrap that around like that, and I was just one of those things that like I was not expecting when I first watched this movie. So when it actually did happen, it just paid off so well, and I also like how I don't know if it's because maybe like I just maybe wasn't in tune at the time, but I didn't get this like spoiled for me either. Like that ending, I think I only found out about that ending when I actually eventually watched it, but I didn't see anything like at the time like online about the ending or stuff like that, or like scenes like getting leaked or the trailers didn't really pose any questions into it, so it was just a good thing that none of that happened before I got to see it myself. And then when I actually did, I was just so like shocked at how what was happening at that point in time. And I also want to highlight the opening sequence. That bridge sequence was shot really well, and just like our boy Robert Ebert mentioned, the effects for like all the kills and stuff looked good, which is so funny because actually, as Mark mentioned as well, this one was also in 3D. But if you told me this movie, like obviously you could tell there were some shots with 3D in mind, but they didn't annoy me the same way that how obvious like they felt like so obvious but out of place in the Final Destination. Where in this one it was like either way, like I could tell like certain things were meant for the 3D, but also they weren't like in such an egregious way that I hated it. And that's honestly the way that you got to do it. Like when you kind of shoot the movie for 3D instead of enhancing what's already happening for like the regular viewing audience, and then enhance it for 3D, you get the better effects, which is what this movie does. I didn't mind the characters in this one, and I thought the mythology that was being used for them to possibly cheat death by having to take someone else's life to get the lifespan, that was like an interesting little touch because they added an extra like moral thing on top of it. So overall, I think this one is really good, and I definitely cast Final Destination 5.
And for me, I also cashed on Final Destination 5. I saw this movie in theaters, and it's an amazing movie, and it's a big improvement over Final Destination 4. That's like the main reason. Like it took everything Final Destination 4 tried to do and like did it better. It executed it a lot better, from the CGI to the 3D to the story to the characters to the situation. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than what Final Destination 4 was. It's what Final Destination 4 tried to be. And again, I like the fact that they fleshed out two or three more characters outside of the main protagonist, which helps the movie. Yeah, it took away from us really getting to know Sam, but we got to know Molly, we got to know Peter. Because honestly, if they didn't give us all those scenes with Peter and his conflict and his going back and forth about everything, when you got to the scene where he's killing the cop and trying to kill Molly, I would have been so fucking lost and so confused.
Mhm.
But because they had those scenes where they explained that character to us and what he was thinking, it all made sense at the end. And and for that reason alone, like I have to cash this movie because it just made sense. And I'm definitely gonna cash it because that ending scene when you realize that they're on flight 180 for your first time viewer who's just who's just watching these movies for the first time, 1 through 5, when you get to that ending scene and you realize, oh shit, there is no way. We watched them go through all of that, and now it's a fucking prequel, and they're dead. Like, damn. So it's a cash. It's a cash for me, it's a cash for Twan. But where does this movie fall in our ranking? To find that out, join us next week as Twan and I rank the Final Destination movies from worst to best. Good night.